What's going on, guys? Welcome to the second episode of the Streamline Podcast series. I'm going NarikChase, and I want to do a versus video between the 1985 Fright Night and the Fright Night of the 2011. Now, the reason for this video is I was listening to this podcast by these two dudes, British guys, English guys, or whatever, and they were comparing the two, and I hated their method of doing it. It was totally biased. It wasn't anything fair whatsoever. And I'm one of those people, if you're going to make a comparison video about something, be fair. Be fair on every single level before you get to putting you, because you could be biased and still be fair. And just the way that they did it, I was just so frustrated that whole time I listened to it. I said, you know what? I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it better than the way they do it. Now, there's their opinion. They like what they like and everything. But I'm like, if you're gonna make a comparison video and don't be fair, then you might as well just make a video for why you like that one movie and not having to and not just compare it to the other one when it's not even really a comparison. It's you saying that you like this one more. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and just get into this video now. The Fright Night series, or the Fright Night movies, is basically usually follows a kid named Charlie Brewster staying in this neighborhood with his basically, I'm just messing this up. It follows this guy named Charlie Brewster, who ends up finding out that his neighbor is Jerry is a vampire. And in these incarnation that they've had, because they've had technically 3 incarnations of this story, same characters, just different people playing them in different places and stuff like that. But it's pretty much that. Of course, Charlie, along with Charlie Brewster and Jerry Dandridge, there is the Evil Ed character. There is Charlie's girlfriend, and there's Peter Vincent, the guy that's like a vampire hunter or a TV show host or something like that, or like a horror show or something like that. In each incarnation, those 5 characters are basically in it. But I'm just gonna go ahead and go with that 1985 and the 2011. Now, in the 1985 version, Charlie is at his home and he discovers that in terms of the story, I think both films actually have a good story. They're just pretty much set in 2 different locations. One in 1985 is in this small rural area. I can't remember exactly where it's at. And this actually got that nice 1980s horror feel to it. There isn't much to the exposition of the neighborhood per se, but it does have that 1980s feel to the neighborhood itself. At times it seems like it's really dark there. At times there's like nobody on the streets. So it does have a nice little setting to it, and I can honestly see a vampire film being made, a vampire story being made there. Now, as far as the 2011 story, I think the story is a little bit more tight, more refined, because there are certain elements in it that do feed into it a little bit more, into the story of Jerry being there, how he deals with like why is Jerry there, how he's abducting people and killing people and stuff, and like nobody is finding out. And in the 1980s version, it's a little bit loose. It's a little bit loose at times. There are moments where the story can be surprisingly funny in both of them, and then it can be surprisingly dark, because that's really the nature of these films. So in terms of story, I honestly would say that both are actually pretty much the same, even though they're set in different places. So I say they pretty much have it together. It's about equal. In terms of the special effects, now I will be honest, there are some Fright Night, some 1985 effects that work surprisingly well. They look good to this day, and I'm surprised at just how good those effects look. And of course, there are some dated ones. They look really shitty. Some of the more dated effects sometimes seemingly come around Jerry's character when he's transformed with the makeup. There are certain times where he looks generally like real, and I was like, okay, that's a really good practical effects. Makeup effects are just great there. And then there are certain moments where it kind of comes off a little funny looking. Like there's sometimes when his fangs are a little bit too big, you can tell that they're too big. So it's like he can barely talk or something like that. There's this one moment where his hand gets he gets stabbed in the hand with a pencil, and the way his hand just looked was like, whoa, that is just shitty. But it's 1980, so you can get away with something like that. Also with like the evil Ed with the teeth too, it seems like his teeth were really too big to be in his for him to talk. I mean, I think vampires can have big teeth as they want, but their teeth are so big that they can barely talk. Okay, that's a problem. So need to fix that. But the most, I think perhaps the best sequence where the practical effects just completely shine is when Charlie's girlfriend ends up getting bit, and like the way that her transformation, Amy, yes, that's her name, Amy. When Amy's transformation, because it goes through like a little process where her eyes change, she's got the teeth, and then mouth seems to get a bit wider. Then the one shot where mouth was really wide, but it looks like it's really her mouth. Fantastic. I would give them that. Like those sequences are fantastic. In the 2011, there's less practical and more CGI, and just like the 1985 version, there's some moments where the CGI looks good. There are some moments where not so good. Specifically, more when it comes to Jerry's transformations. Now, I don't mind it because in both versions, Jerry looks like a complete monster, and I love that. And then they emphasized it a bit more with the 2011 version, especially when he transforms and all of those like teeth start coming in. It looks like he has rows and rows of teeth, and his mouth gets bigger and his face gets kind of monstrous, which I like the design. I'm not gonna lie, I do like that design, but I think some of the CGI could be done a little bit better, maybe a little less. So in terms of that, like there's one moment in this movie where Amy, of course, she gets turned, and she like looks up, and you can see her. She's like looking up at the camera, and you can see her teeth start to come in. It's all CGI and stuff. That shot looked good. Now the next shot, when she looks at Charlie, it looks you can tell CGI. So, and then there's also this sequence where Ed gets his head. Well, Ed ends up getting turned into a vampire and then injured really bad. And then you can see, and he's fighting Charlie, and yeah, that sequence was. Yeah, it was pretty obvious. They could have did a lot better with that. So I'm gonna give it like right with this. Being fair, they're equal because the practical effects had their moments when they were good, and when they were bad, the CGI had their moments when they were good and bad. So fair. I'm going to talk in the music. The music isn't memorable to me. In the original 1985 one, but I felt myself being pulled more towards the way that the presentation of it was made in the Fright Night remake. And then it had a modern feel to it, but it still felt like it was paying homage to the 1980s, and I like that. But I'm not going to say that the Fright Night, that the original, didn't have its own great like tone to it. Yes, when things were really dark, when action was going on, when there were very intense moments, that music did a great job of making the film feel like horrific, and I like that, especially when certain characters die, when situations jump off and you don't know if the main characters are going to make it. And like I said, I do like the remake a little bit more, but it's not enough to where it says completely trumps the original. So in terms of the music, I think they both were handled really well. I will say that I did enjoy both Jerry's theme songs. I believe they're both the themes. And I think they did a great job for those characters. They had this really cool 1980s like saxophone-ish theme to go with the original. And then I liked how they had this really dark and brooding one with the remake. So it gave both the characters this. It just like those themes. And maybe I'm not saying it right, but both of those themes did a great job of actually like capturing those two characters. And I think they did a great job with the music. So I say again, both films actually were equal. Now, in terms of the writing, I'm going to say that the remake did beat the original. Because there was a lot of things in the original I did not like how the sequences were set up. One thing that I would argue is, okay, the beginning of the movie, Charlie's trying to get something from Amy. And then he happens to notice that the guy next door is moving in. And the guy and he sees a coffin. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. You are getting something from your girlfriend. You've been trying to get something from her apparently for a while now. She's finally giving it to you, and you're gonna stop because you got somebody moving in next door. That does not make any sense. Hell could have been unleashed upon the world, and I wouldn't look out that window if my girl was getting me something. Come on now, that doesn't make any sense. They could have did a better job with that. Even with how he sees Jerry bites his first victim. Jerry's doing it in front of a window that's open. Doesn't make any sense. There's one moment where Jerry is in the house. He could easily kill Charlie and his mother. But he doesn't do it. Why? The dude is a centuries old vampire. And he all of a sudden decides not to kill this guy. And even like how they got that established, it's like, okay, Jerry's to move in next door, and then people just start coming up missing and dying. Of course, that would make Jerry look a little bit suspicious. But the movie didn't like give time for him. It didn't say like he'd been there like a month or nothing like that. So, but it's like stuff like that it just completely bothered me. Like I didn't understand that. And even with kind of the whole focus of, belief in the Bible and the cross and stuff like that, I could take it or leave it. But this is why I say the writing in the remake is a little bit better. One, Charlie doesn't believe Jerry is a vampire at all. And yes, he's focused on his girlfriend, so it makes sense. Like if you and in this one, Ed discovers that that Jerry is a vampire. Tries to convince Charlie. Nobody in their right mind would believe anybody that somebody else is a vampire. At least not initially, without some evidence or something. Which Charlie does coming across it. And it makes sense how he comes across it. Even why Jerry is even in that rural area makes sense. In this area, it's like hard times are kind of hitting it, so people are moving out and stuff, and people are moving in, people are moving out. And if a vampire decides he wants to show up and starts killing people and they come up missing, you wouldn't know. You really would not know that those characters, that, you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't really make any sense for them to for anybody to suspect anything because his character, because of the way things are. So if people are constantly moving in and moving out, and then people start coming up missing, you can't tell. So it makes more sense. There's this one moment where Jerry is trying to kind of persuade Charlie to let him in the house. You can tell Charlie is like, he's very cautious at this point, and so that makes sense. And you can tell if Jerry would have gotten in the house, he probably would have killed him. But like in the original, he came in the house, didn't kill him, didn't make no sense why he been killing folks. So I like, as far as that, I did not like it. I didn't like the original's writing on almost on a lot. I'm not gonna say everything was bad because there was some moments that I thought were written really well. Specifically, when Jerry takes Amy, Jerry takes Ed. I thought that was really written really well too. Uh, but let's just go on to the casting and the characters. All right, now in the original, Chris Sarandon plays Jerry Dandridge, and in the remake, Colin Farrell. Both guys do a fantastic job. Chris Sarandon was just awesome in the original, and I love that he had that very seductive look and talk to him. I mean, honestly, dude came in with the suit and all that. I was like, that dude is a pimp. That dude know he got, and I like that about his character. He seemed like he was very suave. He seemed like he was very, like he had everything together. I like that about, and I like, even though he's a centuries old vampire, he didn't dress like it most of the time. Dude had some clear cut, nice suits. So that's why I did but like as far as that, yes, he was very seductive. He was a very good looking dude, and he owned that role. I would give it to him on that. He killed it. He completely killed that role. And on Colin Farrell's side, he's got that bad boy, dark, broody look to him. That that you might not, you don't know what, he's very unpredictable. You don't know where his character is from, but he's got that like bad boy look to him. But it's like that bad boy sexy. Or you got Chris Sarandon. Chris Sarandon's got that good looking guy, sexy, suave, sexy look to him. Colin Farrell got that bad boy sexy look to him, and I like that. Charlie's mom is kind of attracted to him, and you can tell that Colin Farrell's character is kind of a likable guy. He's like, he'll sit down and enjoy a beer with if he ain't trying to kill you. So, I mean, the guy was pretty cool. That's what I liked about his character. He had a great personality. And I know sometimes he can kind of be a little bit creepy, especially later on as the film progresses. So, as far as the performances of Jerry, hands down, both actors did a great job. And their interpretations of the character was just, even though they were different, they had many similarities, and I thought they did a great job. Now, as far as the character of Charlie Brewster, William Ragsdale played an original, and he was all right. He played this kind of nerdy-ish, kind of like this nerdy-ish type of character of Charlie. And I don't like those 1980s nerd-ish type people, and I'm just gonna put that out there. A bit biased on that, but I try to be fair. I don't like that presentation of the nerdy guy that doesn't know what to do or anything like that from like the 1980 films. And he does a decent enough job as a character. But there weren't really moments where I could actually root for him, specifically because there was nothing to his character, in my opinion. But I'm not saying William Ragsdale did a bad job. He did a decent job as portraying the character. I like Anton Yelchin's performance a bit better because his character had a little bit more personality. He was a nerd, but not necessarily a nerd, because in the 1980s, if you were a nerd, you were just a straight nerd. You wasn't like, you couldn't look good and be a nerd. You couldn't, play football and be a nerd. You couldn't be active and be a nerd. But in Yelchin's case, he's like the nerdy-ish guy, but he's like the normal nerdy-ish type of guy. So I like that about his character. And also I liked a bit more about what was going on with him as far as school and stuff. And you start to see that with his character. So to me, his character had a bit more personality. And that is even brought out a bit more when it comes to the Evil Ed character, which I thought, honestly, I like Christopher Mitz Plasse. I'm saying Christopher because I don't like his name. I liked his portrayal of his character a bit more because his character's a bit more sympathetic. Stephen Geoffreys, whatever his name is, I did not like him. He was cocky. He was stupid. He laughed at all of these stupid jokes. Even when he transformed into a vampire, he was freaking annoying. Like, the performance itself was over the top and just stupid. Now, Christopher, I liked his performance a bit more because I liked his character. His character feels like an outcast. And I like how the movie kind of focused on people being different. So it kind of makes you seem like a monster to society because these guys were picking on him and ostracizing him because he was a quote unquote nerd. So, and I like that about his character a bit more. Even his again, like how his relationship is with Anton Yelchin's Charlie, where he's like, okay, they used to be friends, and now, and that happens. That's one thing I like about it. It happens. You can be best friends with someone, but then either through your own individual experiences or due to society, sometimes y'all can grow apart. And this movie shows that they just grew, between both of them, that they grew apart. So I really like Christopher's. I found his character and his performance a bit more well-rounded, and grounded. I did not like. I thought William Ragsdale did a decent job as Charlie, and I think Yelchin did a better job. More because his character is fleshed out a bit more in his actual life, especially with his mom. And I like the little back and forth that they have. So again, that gives more personality to that character and depth to that character. So on this one, I go ahead and give it to Yelchin, even though William Ragsdale does do a good job. It does a decent job too. As far as the Evil Eds, I've said it before, I can't stand Stephen Jeffries as Evil Ed. He was just a complete dick. Did not like his acting. Did not like his character. Christopher Mintz-Plasse did a better job of portraying his human form and making him more of a sympathetic character. Even though when he turns into a vampire, he turns to a dick too. So I'll give that to Christopher. Honestly, these two girls did a fantastic job as Amy. Amanda Bierce was great in the original. Imogen Poots was great in the remake. I love how, even though Poots seems to be like this hot girl that's a hot girl, but then again it explores that not all chicks that are super hot are actually like the baddest chicks in school or anything like that, so, or cheerleaders or something like that. And I think Amanda Bierce, her performance as the character, it completely works. And I think that them being with those, I think Amanda Bierce being with William Ragsdale, Charlie works. And I think Imogen Poots with Yelchin's Charlie Brewster works. I think as far as the Amy's, I think they both did a great job. And I love how they I love how they do push. And I think Poots did a little bit better job in her character of pushing Charlie a little bit. So she was a little bit more active to me. But Amanda Bierce did a fantastic job too. So as far as these two characters, bam, they equal, completely equal. So, and also, let's not forget, when it comes to Peter Vincent's character, and I'm going to try to be fair about this, Roddy McDowall, for the time period and for what they were going for in the movie, did a good job as Peter Vincent. I personally have never liked the whole old man Van Helsing trying to take on immortal vampire. I never liked that because to me it doesn't make sense. You have someone that's like 60 years old trying to take on a vampire that's lived for hundreds of years. Okay, and I've never liked the whole cheesy gimmick of how they kill vampires. But I think for his character, I think Roddy McDowall did do a pretty good job. Now, when it comes to the remake, David Tennant plays Peter Vincent. I love David Tennant. He's one of my favorite actors. Loved him in Doctor Who. Loved him in Jessica Jones. I love the guy just about everything I see him in. And I'm going to be fair about this as best way I can. David Tennant does a better job as a younger Peter Vincent. And that's the Peter Vincent I like because he was younger. Making more sense for him to be more active in a situation like this. And even though I'm not, I can kind of say, I agree with this too, because they did bring this up in that podcast, how he has shared somewhat of a backstory with with Jerry, because Jerry killed his parents. I think that should have been completely left out. I really do. I think that right there was kind of a problem with the writing in the remake. I will admit that. So, but as far as acting wise, I think both the actors did a great job with their characters that fit for their time. Even their presentation of Peter Vincent makes sense. Because in the old one, Peter Vincent was this guy on this horror television show called Fright Night. In the remake, David Tennant's version is this guy that's like into this like special effects and all of this crazy stuff in Las Vegas and making this magical show and stuff like that. So it made more sense. It makes sense for the modern day. But I will say, in terms of personality, David Tennant completely takes it. Completely takes Roddy McDowall's character, because I found Roddy McDowall's character to be. I don't think he was strong enough. I don't think, like, as far as his motivation, I didn't like his. It's like his motivation. He had no motivation towards it, and he had really no personality. It's like, what I didn't really find myself investing in his character, like I could have. But like I said, I like David Tennant's personality. Yes, he did bring a bit of humor, but the guy just sold the role as a younger Peter Vincent. So I would give David Tennant this one, because he did a great job. Now, guys, that's how you compare an original versus remake. You just don't say, "Hey, I like this one," and then just completely down the other one without being fair on any level. So, in the comment section below, guys, let me know, what did you think about this video? Which Fright Night is your favorite, the 1985 version or the 2011 version? And also, let me know if you agree with any of my points, because I found myself thinking about this for quite a while. I've been meaning to do this video, and I'm glad I did it. And anyways, guys, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification button to get the best of what's going on here on this channel. And I'll catch you guys on another edition of Streamline.